It's the YouTube election that they say. How's that sort of made your job as a political journalist better, easier, harder?
Well, easier and harder at the same time. Easier because there's this incredible proliferation of information, rather than receiving information through the normal channels, phone calls, drunken nights out, emails, letters, documents, press releases, that sort of thing. There's a whole new world out there with a whole new field of players, some of them not even politically active particularly, who are generating political material. And I just think it's terrific for democracy, for starters, that there are all these new people in the campaign field. When I say that there are non-political people generating political information, I mean your bloggers, your mash-up artists, people who are comedians, people who are just stirrers, putting together stuff that is relevant to the election campaign, that's amusing, that's interesting, sometimes that's actually quite a decent contribution to public debate, but that doesn't come from political parties.
But even the parties themselves, John Howard gets up early at 5:30 in the morning and uploads his YouTube address. Kevin Rudd's been doing it for a while. The Greens, the Democrats have all got their web blogs and all that sort of thing. So
that's the thing about...
Are they bypassing you guys? Are they going direct to the sources?
Absolutely. And YouTube in particular, you refer to the Prime Minister's technique. Now, you wouldn't classify him necessarily as a classic YouTuber. Remember that the first YouTube address that he did? He said, good morning, and was immediately paid out mercilessly by everyone in cyberspace about the fact that it's not always the same time when people read it as it was when you record it. So he adjusted that, and now he says hello at the beginning of his addresses. But, he's turned that particular forum into a very useful campaign tool for him, because although it's not flashy, it's not funny, it's not kind of the content that YouTubers are necessarily drawn to straight away, what he has done with that YouTube address is give himself another bite at the news cycle, because he puts that up at 5 a.m, which means that it's like a video and audio press release that goes out that morning radio can use. It's something that the newspapers didn't have the night before. It's something fresh for morning breakfast radio, and he gets a great free media run from those messages. So it basically deals him in to an earlier part of the news cycle.
But does it? There's these great videos that are going around now, and there's a danger for the politicians. You've got John Howard falling asleep at the party conference. Yeah. You've got Kevin Rudd picking his ear, we won't go there.
But everyone's seen it.
And in the US now, it's sort of, there's always a politician who's said something, so it's sort of, or is saying a policy they shouldn't be saying. So are we going to get politicians now that nothing's going to be off the cuff? It's going to be all planned.
Nothing's going to be off the record either.
It's going to be all rehearsed, and we're going to get these stale PR type sort of appearances.
Well, look, I disagree. I think that politicians are going to have to respond to the fact that their ability to control their own image, to control their own message, is going to get less and less rather than more and more. I think that you will find that politicians will have to relax into this whole new style of campaign and this new technology that allows any embarrassing moment in their past to be repackaged up and made into a modern news story. That's exactly what Kevin Rudd's discovered in past weeks, and exactly what the Prime Minister finds quite regularly. Nothing in your past that's on film, that has been captured, is immune from recovery and recycling. So the politicians need to respond to that by trying to outwit this new system, I suppose, to make their contemporary comments interesting enough that they can somehow deafen the embarrassing moments from their past. The reason, that's the challenge for politicians, I think. The challenge for us as journalists is a little bit different. In the past, I think we have tried to make journalistic judgments that are very heavily tied into, like, if I receive a document, a piece of information, a press release, part of my assessment process when I'm looking at that document is, okay, what does it say and who said it? Authorship is incredibly important generally as a political journalist. You look at who gave me this, why did they give me this, what are their motivations. The interesting thing about YouTube is that sometimes you don't know who is behind this material. So it moves us into a whole new area where authorship is unverifiable. And for instance, there's a great American example of this in the last 6 months, the Obama Girl video,
Yep.
right? That popped up. Nobody knew who'd made it, but it was funny, interesting, it was classily done, you know. It was a news story that was massive because it travelled virally despite the fact that nobody knew who was behind it. And this has happened here as well. I mean, there have been some very funny YouTube mashups in past weeks. I'm thinking in particular of the one where it's a 7:30 report episode where Kevin Rudd appears to be questioning and answering himself. I mean, it's a crack up. It's a very funny piece of work, and it's not clear where it came from. So, you know, if you I think the content is taking on a life of its own, separate from authorship. So there's an opportunity there for political parties to put together material that is gripping, funny, interesting in and of itself, and it will sell, it will travel virally across the internet.
And because last campaign there was all those computer games that were being sent around, bash, you know, Kim Beazley or bash John Howard and all that sort of thing. So now we're seeing the videos and. But your job's changed too. I mean, you're no longer just a reporter for the Sydney Morning Herald in the morning and we read you. It's Annabel Crabb, the blogger. You know, so you guys have to respond 24 hour in that 24-hour news cycle.
And this, I mean, this campaign is the first, I think, where contemporaneous reporting on the internet for us is a big deal. Now, I mean, we've done a lot of work on this, the Herald, of late, a lot of sort of stitching together of the online staff and the newspaper editorial staff, because now, because of the way the news cycle works now, when we get hold of a scoop at 11 a.m, now it's very dangerous for us to hold on to that story, you know, and because it's a risk, you know. So quite often you'll see on the Herald we go straight to online with stories, not only with sort of reports of announcements and press conferences and so on, which we certainly do, but also sometimes with genuine scoops, because the news waits for no person now. There's a lot of competition on filing fast and filing first. So, you know, this whole election campaign is going to be an incredibly frenetic one for us.
And a great joy for us political nerds who love to watch everything in real time when we can. And all
new. Yeah.
Annabel, thanks so much for talking to us today.
It's a pleasure, Jeremy.
Thanks.